Even in the most dire, the worst things that could possibly happen, you can identify at least three things. And one of those three things is, I did it.
Today we're going to be talking about conquering one of the biggest obstacles that's going to keep you stuck in your network marketing business, the fear of failure. And in this video, we're going to give you some of our tools, strategies, tips, and tricks to help you overcome the fear of failure. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now so you don't miss any of our future episodes. Let us know in the comments if you're letting the fear of failure hold you back. You know, where do you think that fear of failure comes from? For so many of us, it comes from things that have happened in our childhood, things that happened in our past. So let's talk about, you know, that fear of failure, where it comes from.
Yeah, I know that for me, fear of failure, it actually was, it was like I had a fear of failure, I had a fear of success. I pretty much had all the fears when I was first getting started. But for fear of failure specifically, it was something that happened in my childhood. So I had worked and worked and worked. I was a runner. You know, I used to do like cross country running. I got started when I was in the 3rd grade running with my dad, and that turned into like competitive running. And I remember it was like one of the biggest races of the year. So we had like regionals, nationals. We had traveled, you know, to another state to go and compete with my team. And as a team, like we all had to place in a certain part in order for us to like, you know, do well. Yeah. And I remember I had like, it was my first time running with this team. And I started going out, and I remember starting the race. When I started the race, I got a stitch in my side, you know, where you like feel like you can't breathe. And I had like my own like rhythm of, you know, ways that I could get rid of it. And this stitch would just not go away, and it wouldn't go away, and it wouldn't go away. And I remember like people that I had run in races previously were passing me. And I was like, I can't breathe. Like, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm ruining it for everyone. And I ended up doing okay, not as good as I wanted to. But to me, I felt like I had let my whole team down. Mm-hmm. And now, you know, you fast forward to starting the business, that fear of failure, even though I had been successful in other things since then, I had gone on to run competitively, that fear of failure had been ingrained of, what if you fail? What if you fail?
Especially if it involves other people.
And it involved other people. Because it wasn't necessarily me, right? The first thing I thought was,
I let my team down.
Because they were counting on me getting a certain position in that race to qualify to go to the next thing.
Yeah. So for me, the fear of failure when it came up in network marketing was, you know, I'd been pretty successful at everything that I had done. So like telling people I was going out of what I had known, like I, you know, was a cosmetologist for like 25 years. I had a successful salon. I had, you know, a clientele to die for, like, you know, I was making really great money. And then, you know, you venture out on this thing and like your people are looking at you like, what are you doing? Right. So it was this judgment of, you know, there's no way this is ever going to work for you. And like all that. Right. And then all of that comes into your mind, and you start believing that stuff. And then you think, what if I freaking fail at this and they were right? Right. Like that's the other piece of it that comes up. So,
and I love that you, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I love that you brought that up, because so many times these fears that we have, like fear of judgment, go hand in hand with fear of failure, because we're wondering, well, what are people around me thinking? What does my mom think? What does my dog think?
What does
right?
my husband think, right?
Like we start questioning, and we start to like make things up in our head of what other people are thinking, when chances 9 times out of 10, those people aren't even thinking about you.
They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you did to overcome this fear of failure.
It's a really good question. It's a $1 million question.
The $1 million question.
Get ready.
Let's start giving you some tips and strategies to help you.
I'm going to drop the bomb. Like
Let's drop the bomb.
Come on, drop it, bring it.
So you will have a fear of failure if you thinking that failure is the bad thing.
Yeah.
So I had a huge aha moment when I was told that you're not going to be able to succeed unless you fail many, many, many times, right? And it's like, oh, Like I literally had to give myself permission to fail. And it wasn't easy, right? Because to me, when fear of failure was associated with embarrassment, I didn't want to feel embarrassed again. And all those people, oh, I told you so. Like, oh, you're not rich yet. I told you, right? So to me, it was like, I can't feel that again. So when I literally started rewiring my mind and looking at failures, like, what can I learn from that experience, right? I had a lot of failure in network marketing. I can tell you guys that story. So when I was 19 years old, I just joined my first company. And there was a big event about to happen in Moscow. And we were supposed to buy $1,000 worth of product in order to get ticket to that conference. And you know how you're upline, you gotta go. If you don't go to the event, you're never gonna be successful. 19 years old, I was in second year of college at that time. I wasn't working, right? Full-time student. So I went to my parents and like, I really wanted, like, Mom and Dad, I really, really want it. Please, pretty please, like, I'm gonna return it all and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Just gonna like let you guys compare what $1,000 in 1998 could buy you back then in Russia. 2 cars.
Wow.
That's how much money it was. Wow. And it's not like something you have in your bank account. You have to go to like 5 relatives and ask 200, 200, 200.
Or the mafia.
So
Story for another day.
I convinced my parents to go and borrow money from their friends and family so I could go to this event. So it was 6 cases of product, like a lot of product. I'm like, oh my gosh, finally, right? So I went to the convention. It was awesome. So we came back, you know, I traveled to another city to prospect. Like we slept on the balcony of someone's grandma's house for a month. We couldn't afford any hotel on the balcony. I mean, it was like
Enclosed?
Enclosed.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank heavens.
So like
He's hardcore, man.
but you know, like that's what we did because like, well, I committed, right? I'm gonna go above and beyond to make it happen. So, and I remember even the date, it was August 18th, 1998 or 9. So we wake up and we open the news and it's like the economy crashed. Like the whole market collapsed, like they call it default or whatever. So let's say ruble, $1 was 6 rubles and it became 24 overnight. So, and people couldn't afford to buy a $60 bottle of vitamins because that's how much they made now in an entire month.
Wow.
Like they need this money to
Survive,
right? So I had 6 cases of product and owning $1,000 because I borrowed dollars, right? Now I have to return 4 times more.
Yeah.
Like I was crushed.
Yeah.
Like I knew I was in a big trouble, like big trouble. So that was my first and biggest failure of network marketing.
And you go deeper into it in your book where you're like the mafia starts getting involved. Like
it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And literally overnight, it became even 4 times more.
Yeah, a lot more money.
Yep.
So I told myself, I'll never do it again. I was so done with, I was ashamed of network marketing. Like, that's how much fear I had when I was like, network marketing? Hell no.
I had the mafia on my ass for years.
Never again. Yeah, but later on, you know, when you see the bigger pictures, it was actually blessing in disguise because if I didn't have the debt sitting on my ass, I would never come to the States.
Yeah.
Because I was pushed to do something drastically different, right? How can I find the money? And that was my motivation to come here, like all alone. Would you let your kid go alone in a different country?
No.
Across the pond with $200?
No.
No, but I couldn't stay there.
That's like Russian gangsta.
So talking about fear of failure. So when I decided, you know, that I'm joining network marketing again, I was like, I'm just going to go for it. Yeah, it's going to be scary and I might fail again, but I'm just going to make something out of it.
So I love that. So failure is not actually it's
bad.
it's part of the journey.
It's part of the
So
journey.
embracing failure as, okay, this is going to come and it's part of the journey. And, you know, I'm not going to treat failure as failure, but as a stepping stone to success.
Well,
That's
when
how I
you-
like to look
When
at
you
it.
think about like a baby learning how to
Yeah.
walk, you know, they're going to get up and they're going to fall how many times before they finally take that first
And they
step?
don't just sit there.
And they don't just sit there and never stand up again, right? It's the constant failure and learning from that failure that finally gets your baby to stand for that first time and then learn how to walk. First time you rode a bike, right? It took several times of getting on that bike and falling and crashing and getting scraped and bruised before you finally figured out your balance to be able to ride your bike.
And I think it's important to, note that fear itself means future events appearing real, right? So
Yes.
it's this story that you create in your mind. And it's like this tornado that just keeps going in your mind. And, you can either feed that or you can shut that down by taking action. And I think that's really how you get past, the fear is you've actually got to do something. If you're just sitting there like, in wallowing in the whole what if this, what if that, what and you're looking for certainty and you're looking for all these things, there isn't any, right? Like there's people that go to dental school and totally fail, right? There's people that go be a cosmetologist and they kick them out. Like it happens in every industry. It's just having to learn and get better and move forward.
And a lot of people have said, like, oh, from being successful, and how we did it, right? It's like, oh, well, you guys, it's because you're pretty, or like, whatever. You're good looking in front of the camera and things like that. And first of all, I'm like super insulted because you don't even know what I've been through to get to this point.
Right.
You were just lucky.
Right.
That's another
right.
one.
You were lucky, or you're better looking, and so you have a leg up on everybody. And really what it was is we failed so much faster. And when you fail, you actually can identify and learn and see what's working and what's not working. And so, and the same goes with, I was a high performance athlete. I succeeded a lot. I had a lot of accolades. I won a national championship in volleyball. We finished on a perfect season. And I mean, that's not a good thing. But, when you fail throughout those things, right, you're able to see what your weaknesses are, your vulnerabilities, like what areas of the game do we need to work on? It's the same in your business. So we failed faster. We identified gaps quicker and got back up and continued moving forward. And it wasn't like, and so I guess what I want to say is, you want to fail.
Yeah.
Right? Like you want to be prepared for that, because if you can just skate through, right, and you just go right to the top.
Fail fast, fail forward.
And and people are going to say, well, what did you do? Like, well, I don't know. I don't know what I did.
I just showed up and I'm pretty.
Right. and like, you can't duplicate that. You can't show people like the path that you took. Right. And it's like same thing as, with other aspects in our business. If we have a student comes in, or if we came in and we launched an ad or whatever, and we just went to the top, you're never going to know what about that ad worked, right? Like what did, and then turn around and then teach it and help someone else, right? So
I think about even with Beach Boss, like we've grown really fast, right? We've grown really fast over the last few years, but people don't see or know about some of the janky that happened. Like I remember our Black Friday offer. It would have been 2021.
21.
It was 2021.
Major bomb.
And we spent hours and hours creating this offer, getting ready, like putting the funnels in place, all the things. And we launched it. I was the one that did the webinar. And so I get to the very end and I'm like, here we go. We're bringing all these people into this program.
Get ready for the flood.
And
zero.
Wait, I thought we had 3 people.
At the end of the email sequence, not from the pitch. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I screwed it up for all of us. It was.
And here we are with the
webinar.
team again, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I screwed it up for
And
the whole team.
it's that fear of failure, and so it's like, but we took that, it was like a really hustle bustle time throughout all of December to even keep Beach Boss afloat at that point. But what we got from that, we've never repeated the mistakes that we made.
Right.
Had we had not failed,
Yeah.
we would
might
have
not be here.
we might not be here.
So
right?
that brings me on to how might people overcome that fear of failure? What resources or what might they do? What might they put in place to help them figure out what. So you've got a great process.
Yeah, I was about to say, we all have a process that we use, and it's the process of evaluation. I think it's a $7, $8, $9 billion skill set, because as you continue to evaluate, you continue to improve, and the more you fail, evaluate, improve faster. That's kind of what happens.
What makes it like so just transformational for your business and as the entrepreneur, the evaluation that we use is it takes the emotion out of it.
Yes.
Right?
Spill the beans. Yeah. So basically what you're going to do, it's a 3-step process where you first identify what 3 things worked. Even when you're saying this failed, this bombed, nothing worked.
Everything about it sucks,
right?
Sucks. Yeah.
It's actually not true.
Right.
Even in the most dire, the worst things that could possibly happen, you can identify at least 3 things. And one of those 3 things is, I did it.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Because if you're saying nothing's working, that means you're not working and there's a problem there, right? So it's identifying what 3 things worked. Then you move on to what are the 2 major things that didn't work. You're not going to go and you're going to list a million things. It's identify what were the 2 major things that didn't work in whatever I just did. And then from there, you ask yourself, what's one thing I might change or do differently based on the 2 things that didn't work, so that I get closer to my result next time.
Keeping emotion out of it.
Keeping emotion out of it.
And you have 3 wins to your 2 things that sucked, right?
And one that you're going to do different.
So you're winning.
Don't have a list of 20 things. Or, this is all the things that sucked.
It's
intentionally. That's
Right.
The positive, we pick 3. The negative, we pick 2, and then we
change one of the 2.
solution.
Right. And by identifying that's externally verifiable data, right? Like it's not just like on a whim, like, or I felt this, right?
Well, I feel like this. Well, no, like what do the actual numbers,
we've actually
data
had that happen in like stuff that we've done, right?
Yeah.
Like we do something and I'm like, well, I feel like that was a crapshoot, right? And then
And then
we
the
actually look
students
at the
say,
actual
"Oh my gosh, that was
numbers
amazing."
or the feedback or whatever, and it's not really a crapshoot. Maybe it was just my, the way I was feeling at the time, or whatever.
There's times where we were like, man, I totally botched that training or something. But then our students are like in the chat, like, that was amazing, right? Because like we know that it wasn't what we wanted it to be.
And on the flip side,
our expectation, but they don't, right?
On the flip side, there's been times where we're like, that was awesome, the most amazing thing we've done.
Totally.
And we're like,
and like the result that we get doesn't come.
So the key is to take emotion out
Yes.
of your decision-making process, right? Because usually that's what kills network marketers and makes us fail is that emotion, because we're drowning. Oh my gosh, that was a huge failure. And it's huge failure to us, but literally no one else might have noticed that that was a failure, right? Your parents will forgive you.
Eventually.
Your neighbor doesn't care, right? The only person who care and judges you, fear of judgment, is you.
yeah.
So,
But if you don't take that emotion out,
No, you're
you
good,
don't
you're good.
take that emotion out, right? A reason why, like a lot of people, either get stuck they're stuck where they're at because of a failure, right? Or they check out and they're like, I'm putting my business on the shelf for a couple months. All that stuff is because they react emotionally with their failure. And then they start spiraling, and that failure starts bringing in all these, like, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'll never succeed. Maybe I can't even do this business, right? And spiral. And then who wants to get up after that, right? They can't get themselves out because they've spiraled so low.
Failures.
And then it's either like, I'm going to quit, or like I said, I'm just going to check out for a couple months. And then here we go. I'm going to relaunch my business. But then it's like, what if
starting over?
what if all this stuff happens again, right? Fear comes back in again. So
it's like a loop.
yes.
Failure.
Well, and with network marketing, I don't think anybody actually fails. You just have a bunch of people that quit.
Yep.
Because if you stay with it long enough, if you learn the skill sets and you practice, and maybe for instance, I can say For me, when I started to build online, right, I started to get some results about a year in, 10, 11 months.
You failed into your success.
Yeah. Kat, for instance, it took a little bit longer, right? Carrie did it even faster than I did. And it all depends on how fast you're willing to fail and how quickly you're willing to learn new skill sets and implement that and evaluate as you go, right? Like that's really the bottom line.
And you have to take the judgment and the emotion out of it in order to do that.
Yeah.
As hard as it is, you have to take a step back. And even if you're feeling like awful about whatever just happened, what are those 3 things? Those 3, even if they're teeny, micro?
Like I
those
actually
3
did it.
wins?
That could be, like you said, number 1.
Yeah.
And you can use that evaluation on a daily. You could evaluate your business over the week and do that. You could do it after a certain activity, like an action step, like maybe you did a live or something. Maybe you've done the webinar. Maybe you're running a challenge in your group, right? So you're always using it. You can evaluate your business over the month. So it's a really great tool, and it's not just something you do like one time. It's something that you're constantly doing over and over.
Right.
Yeah. So by reframing your fear of failure and surrounding yourself by people who can help you, shift your mindset, and go through processes like we've just discussed, you can embrace that fear of failure, overcome it, and actually start seeing results in your network marketing business. So if you're ready to overcome that fear of failure and start attracting high quality prospects to your network marketing business, you're going to want to grab the social influencer formula. It's going to be in the link below. And make sure to tune into our next episode where we're going to be diving deeper into other aspects of building your business online. If you haven't hit it, it's happened to all of us. So why do I get so stuck in these things? I can't.
Hey, we all do it.
It was awful.